Hey guys, and welcome to my guide on Enigma. Now Enigma is the 6th boss in the raid Mind of Madness. He's considered the 6th even though you have 3 bosses available to you due to the fact that he's simply the easiest one. He is a 3-phase fight, he has a lot of boss casts which you need to learn, and he has a slightly tight burn check which you'll have to kill a certain ad in a short period of time, but apart from that he has a very forgiving in rage and he's not very difficult. I'm going to go over everything that you need to know to kill this boss. I'm going to start off with the raid composition, then I'll go through the boss cast and then each of the phases. So to begin with, we'll go over the raid composition. So this is a 1 tank fight. There isn't too much preferences for what tank you used, however, cleric tanks have a bit of issues with healing aggro, and so if you could, you should avoid using a cleric tank. For healers, it's quite a heavy healing setup due to a lot of AoE damage and some very tight tank damage in certain periods. So what we're going to be using, we're going to be using 1 purifier. Now this purifier ideally should be a purifier sentinel, picking up healer's covenant from sentinel and the rest in purifier. I have the build in the description below if you are unsure about it. You also need a defiler and then 3 to 4 AoE healers. Now out of the AoE healers, you should ideally have 1 liberator, and if you can, have 2 liberators. Now if you can choose between either picking 3 AoE healers or 4 AoE healers. This simply makes, if you use 4 AoE healers, you're going to have slightly less DPS on the burn check and might make it more difficult. However, if you have 4, it is also a bit safer. For the supports, we're going to be using 1 Harpcon, 1 Bard or Oracle, and a Beastmaster. And then the rest of the raid just needs to go full single target DPS, and they should be all melee specs for the extra DPS, and also the fact that you can't actually get disconnected from the boss in this fight. Now we're going to talk about the boss casts, and more specifically the important boss casts which stay consistent through most of the fight. So the first one is Cleave. Cleave is a 180 telegraph in front of the boss where he's facing, and it channels for 6 seconds and does constant heavy damage. This can be tanked by the tank, but any non-tank will get killed by this, so this just needs to be faced away from the raid, usually on the opposite side to where the raid is standing, and that's just the positioning of the tank. The second is Chaos Flame. This drops a fiery AoE underneath the tank, and it lasts for quite a while, and there will be multiple Chaos Flames that are up at the same time. The tank just needs to kite these, and ideally kite them in a square fashion so that he's not moving where the boss is facing. Breaking Bad is an interruptible cast. It will kill people if it goes through, simply keep it interrupted. Overwhelming Force is a 3-second cast followed by a 3-second channel. During the channel there will be very high tank damage. Now there has to be a healer's cooldown on the tank, otherwise he will most likely die. This also happens around 30 to 40 seconds, every 30-40 seconds, so you need to be using 2 healing cooldowns. Now this is why we use the Purifier Sentinel and a Defiler. The Purifier Sentinel will use his Healer's Covenant on the first Overwhelming Force, and then the second Unstable Transformation from the Defiler will be used. This way you always have these 2 cooldowns being rotated, and the tank will survive each one. Meteor is a cast that places a pulsing red AoE on a member. This person needs to be stacked up with at least 5 other people to share the damage from this AoE. The damage is quite low when it's shared, but it can be quite dangerous with the next cast that I'll explain. This cast is Emission of Turmoil. It's a 3-second cast followed by a 4-second channel. Similar to Overwhelming Force, during the channel there's going to be very high damage, but instead of it doing damage to the tank, it does very high damage to the raid. This is why you have so many AoE healers, and they just need to heal through this. When it becomes a very big threat is when you have Meteor about to hit as the channel is happening of the damage. Now the way you want to deal with this combo is by having a Liberator using his mash casualty response with redress and channeling ameliorate for the damage taken buff. On top of this, your Purifier Sentinel can also use Gathering Flames with flashover for the crit shields. This will mean that you most likely will survive the Meteor and Emission of Turmoil without anyone dying instantly. When it can become a bit tricky is the fact that Emission of Turmoil usually happens every 30 to 40 seconds. You can get a second Emission of Turmoil and Meteor combo in that minute while you have those abilities on cooldown from the Purifier and the Liberator. This is why it's good to have two Liberators, so you can have the second Liberator uses cooldowns on that one. If you can't have a second Liberator for whatever reason, then you can have a Beastmaster use his defensive cooldowns on the second Emission of Turmoil with Meteor. Okay, so there will be more boss casts, but they are phase specific, and I will go through them once I get to the phase which they're in. So let's begin with the first phase. So the platform you're on is a donut shape. If you use the stairs as a starting point, you want to have your single tank on the left side pulling from there, and you have the raid on the right side, and the raid on the right side should all be stacked up. Something that you will quickly find out about this room and this boss is that you can ninja pull very, very, very easily. You have melee range from absolutely anywhere on the platform, and this includes auto attack. So if you have the boss selected and you click on him, you will start auto attacking and you will pull the boss. So you have to be very, very careful when you're just waiting around before the pull. When you pull the boss, he will just simply start using the casts which I've previously explained, and he will do this until about just after 1 minute. At this point, he will cast a new spell called Summon Pandemonium Obstructions. What this does is spawn a crystal which will be near the raid where the raid is positioned, and this crystal has to die within 15 seconds. The reason for this is because the boss starts casting Pandemonium, and this is a 15-second cast, and at the end it will kill anyone who is not stood inside a white AoE. This white AoE is spawned by the crystal when it dies. So obviously you need to kill the crystal, get inside the white AoE, and then you won't die to Pandemonium. Now this also affects the tank, so the tank has to run over from his other side and get to the white AoE in time. This crystal, called Pandemonium Obstruction, also has 2 interrupts which you need to do, so just assign to people to make sure they interrupt each cast, otherwise you're not going to be able to kill it. After the crystal dies and you stood inside the white AoE and Pandemonium has gone off, the boss will then cast Sunder. This is like Cleave, but instead of channeling damage, it just does a one-shot at the end of the cast. For this, you have your tank run to the left, and you have the rest of the raid run to the right out of it. You've got plenty of time, just get out of it, simple. The DPS check on killing the crystal can be quite tight, especially if you're using 4 healers. If you are really struggling with this as a guild, it's best to save your 1 minute raid cooldowns for this and all personal 1 minute cooldowns for this, because this is actually the only meaningful DPS check you have in this fight. The enrage is 11 minutes long, and you just aren't going to hit that if you complete all the mechanics properly and don't have too many deaths. So don't be scared of saving your cooldowns for this. Pandemonium will continue being cast every minute, and this is the only mechanic which is unique to phase 1. So it is literally just rinse and repeat of killing the crystal on every minute, and this carries on until 60% where the phase change happens. At 60%, the boss will start casting Summon Chaos, and once it finishes, you're going to have a whole load of stuff happen all at the same time. So first off, you're going to have sparks spawn on the platform, the donut platform. What these are orbs that are either red colored or purple colored. The red orbs rotate around the boss in circular lanes and will deal around 50,000 damage to you if you get hit by them. The purple orbs stay stationary and will instantly one-shot you if you touch them. These orbs stay within lanes in the platform. The platform is actually divided into 4 circular lanes, one on the inside, one on the mid-inside, then mid-outer, and then the outside. So 4 lanes. And the red orbs will rotate within these lanes, and the purple orbs will stay stationary inside one of the lanes. So you have 3 red orbs and 1 with purple. Now, the purple lane is considered the safe lane. The reason why it's considered the safe lane is because if you stand within it but not touching any of the purples, you will never take any damage from the red sparks. Obviously, taking less damage is always better, but the main reason why we stay in the safe lane as much as possible is because during Emission of Turmoil, if you get hit by a red orb, you're going to die because you're just going to take 50,000 damage and then take the damage of Emission of Turmoil, and you're just going to get one shot. So you got to watch out for the Emission of Turmoil casts, and when that happens, you have to make sure everyone stays within the safe lane. Now you might be thinking, why would you ever move outside of the safe lane? Now the reason why you have to move outside the safe lane is what I haven't mentioned yet, is that on either side of the boss on the platform, there are going to be lasers. These lasers are split the platform into 2 180 segments and will slowly rotate anti-clockwise. If you get hit by the laser, you get one shot. This means you have to keep on the move throughout this whole phase, just making sure you never get caught by the lasers, but also stay within the safe lanes during Emission of Turmoil. So like the first phase, you're going to have the tank on the opposite side of the raid, and he's going to be on the other side of the lasers. It's really important that the tank stays within the middle of his semicircle, constantly rotating the boss just to keep him inside that section, because he's going to still keep casting cleave. So you need to spread the cleave within your side of the lasers so it doesn't spill into the other side and possibly hit the raid. The raid needs to stay closer to the laser that's moving away from you than the one that's catching up to you. The reason for this is because obviously you want to stay within the safe lane during Emission of Turmoil, and you can't change lanes during this phase, so during the Emission of Turmoil cast. So if you are behind and are staying within the safe lane and get trapped behind a purple spark, you might get hit by the behind laser if you're too far behind. So this is why you always have to stay ahead if possible. But at the same time, don't stay too far ahead, because you might either get hit by the fire laser or the cleave might slightly spill into your section and hit you. In terms of boss casts, you're going to have the same casts from phase 1 with the exception of Chaos Flame and also anything to do with the crystals that you burn, so no Pandemonium casts. At 45%, the boss is going to cast Hasten Sparks. All this does is make the red orbs move quite a bit quicker. This actually doesn't make much of a difference because of course you're only moving when it's safe, and if it's safe, it's okay to get hit by one red orb, and that's all you ever need when you're just switching lanes. This will carry on until 25%, where the boss will phase into phase 3, and this will be shown by the cast Call to Chaos on the boss. This phase is going to feel a lot like phase 1 again, because he's going to start casting Chaos Flame and all the sparks and the lasers despawn. There is one major difference though, and something you're going to have to handle, is that he will start spawning these bubbles with a crystal inside called Fragments of Chaos. What these do is that they start moving towards players, and when they hit a player, they deal damage to it. And if the crystal inside the orb hits another Fragments of Chaos's bubble, it completely wipes the raid. So, how to stop these from killing the raid? Now, when you hit 25% and he casts Call to Chaos, there will be these orbs on a stand. I don't know really how else to describe them. They spawn on both sides of the boss, and a player can click on them, and when you click on them, you get 3 reactives. The first one roots the Fragments of Chaos, and the second one pulls them towards you, and the third one passes on these reactives to another player. Now you never need to use the third one, but what you're going to do with the pull and the root is that you're going to stack up the Fragments of Chaos on the edge to begin with, and then you're going to spread them, stacking them up until you get close to where they spawn, and then you're going to start a second row in the middle, starting from where you put the first one, and then you're going to stack them up, and then you're going to start a third row just on the edge next to the boss. This way you can stack them quite tightly, and you also have a lot of time before they start reaching where they spawn, which will just instantly wipe you. The Fragments of Chaos spawn on each side of the boss where you picked up the reactives. Remember, there's always 2 spawning at each time, 1 on each side, so you obviously need 2 people dealing with them on each side. You have your raid stacked very tightly on one side right next to the boss, and your tank on the opposite side, so he tanks it, spreading the cleave in between where the Fragments of Chaos spawn. Remember, when you're stacking these up, you can't let the middle crystal in the bubble touch any other bubble. So when you're stacking this up, you can't pull it through another bubble. This is really, really important. And remember, the better you stack up these Fragments of Chaos, the longer you have to kill the boss. The hard enrage of the boss is never going to be an issue, but what will be an issue is you running out of space with the Fragments of Chaos. The better you stack them, the longer you have, and the less DPS you need, basically. In terms of boss cast, the only new cast he's going to do compared to phase 3 is that he's going to start doing Chaos Flame again, and that just means your tank has to start kiting the AoEs again like he did in the first phase. That's all there is to phase 3. It's going to feel pretty easy, except for the fact that you're going to wipe quite a few times, as the people who are dealing with the bubbles need to get some practice, and it's not as simple as it might seem. The people you should pick to do this are ideally healers or supports, due to the fact that if you have higher DPS, you need to deal with less fragments and the boss dies quicker, so that's always nice. That summarizes all the mechanics that Enigma has. As I've said before, the key to really killing this boss is first learning the boss casts and how to deal with it. Then in phase 1, it's having your DPS swap well to the crystals, the Pandemonium instructions, and being able to kill them in time and beat the DPS check. In phase 2, it's really getting the movement right, staying in safe lanes, moving out when it's safe, and just not killing yourself to Emission of Turmoil. Third phase, really, it's just having the people dealing with the Fragments of Chaos learn how to do it properly, and once they've done that, it will be a sure kill. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys found this useful. I'm going to be doing more guides for Lady Justice, Dark Genesis, and Arisen Rack, seeing that the person who was previously doing the video guides quit the game. So yeah, stay tuned for more guides on the raid bosses. If you have any questions or any feedback on this guide, drop it in the comments. I will read and reply to the best of my ability. Thank you for watching, and bye.